Good afternoon and welcome to our February 15th, 2022 consent agenda. Let the record reflect that all three commissioners are present, as well as our executive management team. We have some additional guests that are here, and I will let them, at this point is Ben Bradabo and Rob Lindsay with our environmental services department. Although it's like public works now, so water resources, maybe that's the term I need to be using. And then you have a guest that you'll be introducing, but so I'd like to start off with saying that we do have we're going to take 4H separately because we're going to have a presentation on that. But I don't know if there's any other items that my fellow commissioners would like to take separately in addition to 4H. Okay. So we're going to start off with item number 1, which is a presentation on the Outstanding Performance Award for 2022. This is in the manner of recognizing the dedicated team at the Spokane County Regional Water Reclamation Facility for the Outstanding Performance Award of 2020. And Ben Bradabo, I'm going to let you, I'm not sure if I'm letting you or Rob take over.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks, Commissioner. I'll take over and appreciate the opportunity to receive this award for the county. We have Adrian Borges from the Washington State Department of Ecology joining us today to present the award. Valerie Garcia is our contract operator with Jacobs, and she is likely on the line as well. And just really thanks for the opportunity to be here and highlighting this facility. The Spokane County Regional Water Reclamation Facility will be receiving the plaque that Commissioner Cuny has there. And I am very impressed by the Jacobs team and then the entire team that Spokane County has receiving this award. This facility received the award in 2018 and 2019. And in both of those years, it's a big task to operate the facility at such a high level. And then you throw in a global pandemic. And while so many of us were forced to stay at home or had to limit the amount of time they could go to work, you had Spokane County's team, including our wastewater operations group, and then Jacobs' team having to, in fact, go to work every day as to support the critical infrastructure that we have. And so I just really appreciate the work that Valerie and her group with Jacobs has done, and then also the county's staff in receiving this award. And then also a close partnership with the Washington State Department of Ecology. And so thank you, Adrian, for joining us. And if you'd like to share a few words.
Yes, thank you. Commissioner Cuny, Commissioner Kearns, Commissioner French, Chad Coles, Rob Lindsay, Ben Bradabo with Spokane County Utilities, Valerie Garcia with Jacobs Engineering. I'm here today to present the Spokane County Water Reclamation Facility with its 2020 Wastewater Treatment Plant Outstanding Performance Award. This is the 3rd consecutive year that the county has received this award. My staff evaluated your wastewater treatment plant for 2020 compliance with effluent limits, monitoring and reporting requirements, spill prevention planning, and overall operational demands of your permit. And I'm pleased to announce that your facility has achieved full compliance with its permit. We know that it takes diligent operators and a strong management team working together to achieve this high level of compliance. And it's not easy to operate a plant of your complexity 24 hours a day, 365 days a year without violations. We appreciate the extraordinary level of effort your plant operators demonstrated in 2020, especially as the COVID pandemic was having a serious impact on our state and county. It's the talent and proficiency of your operators that are critical to success plant operations and the protection of Washington's waters. And in recognition of this award, as Ben has already stated, Spokane County receives a plaque which states Outstanding Performance Award 2020. The Washington State Department of Ecology recognizes the exemplary effort and work accomplished by Spokane County and the dedicated team at the Spokane County Regional Water Reclamation Facility. Thank you for protecting and keeping Washington's waters clean. Thank you. This is, of course, the best part of my job. I just want you to know that.
No, thank you very much. I don't know if Rob, you have anything you want to say, or Chad, and then I'll check with my fellow commissioners.
I just wanted to say thank you again to Ecology and speak to our very positive relationship. And then also take a moment to thank Valerie and her team once again, because we would not have received these awards if not for their dedication and good work. And I'm going to shoot a little bit from the hip, but earlier today, Ben was giving me a heads up on just how many data points we supply to the state on a regular basis, just as part of our ongoing compliance. And it's somewhere between 5,000 and 6,000 data points a year. And all of those, there's something behind all of those. There's a test. There's it's demonstrating compliance with one aspect of our permits. So indeed, they're extremely complicated and in depth. And the work that Jacobs has done to keep us in compliance for all these years is remarkable and is deserving of our thanks and appreciation. So I just wanted to stress that. So thank you. And thank you, Adrienne, for your confidence in us.
Thank you.
Thank you, Rob. Chad, go ahead.
I just wanted to say these guys are awesome. Thank you for all your work.
I don't know if one of my fellow commissioners would like to say anything. Commissioner French.
Yeah, I mean, to be able to get this award 3 years in a row just says a ton about the quality of our staff and the quality of the facility and stuff, and appreciate the partnership that we have with Ecology and your recognition of the hard work that our employees are trying to turn in every day to make sure that we are a standard of excellence in this field. So thank you for the recognition. And again, thank you to all of our employees involved with the project. And once again, you set the gold standard. So thanks.
We've got an incredible team, and this is just another example of how they work hard and they make us proud each and every day serving the citizens of Spokane County. So I just want to say thank you to everybody involved in this. This is a huge honor, and I know you'll keep up the good work. So thank you for everything you're doing.
Yes, and so I do have the award here, so I will get this to you, Ben. So very excited. I just want to say thank you too. I mean, I know it is a team effort. I know Jacobs does a lot of working with our staff as well. So it's a team effort on I know both their parts, and it's a great team that we have. And so we're just thankful every day because you guys really are setting the standard high here in Spokane County. And thanks for the partnership with Department of Ecology and for this recognition. I think it's great, and you guys are doing phenomenal work. So thank you all very much.
Thank you.
Okay. So with that, then next on our agenda, I'm going to take 4H separately for a presentation from John Knowles. John on? Okay, we're getting him promoted now. John, are you ready to present on item number 4H?
I sure am. So as you're aware, we did receive about $57,000 in grant funding from the Spokane Tribe of Indians through the Impact Mitigation Fund. I have received the check, and we are ready to purchase the equipment that we put in the grant application with those funds. The funds that we received were about half of what we requested from the tribe. So our only limitation is that we expend the funds on items specifically stated in the grant application. So what our intent right now is to purchase the software that we listed in the grant application, some protective boots for our major crimes investigators, an explosive breaching tool for the bomb squad, and a few pieces of equipment for the SWAT team, even though we cannot purchase all of the items requested from the SWAT team for this particular grant.
Thank you, John. And I do want to let people know that I do sit on the Impact Mitigation Fund Committee for the Spokane Tribe. And I do know that of all the applications, requests were for over $900,000 in items on those applications. And the funding was only just under 300,000. So they could not fully fund everything that was requested. And so they just do the best they can. I'm just one member of a committee of, I think, 6. So that's how those funds work. So, but I'm thankful that we got to get some of the requests to you to make sure that we were providing the equipment that you're wanting.
Perfect. And they were very good to us. The application process is pretty straightforward for them, and they have a very quick turnaround. And we request items that are going to be that we would expect to reasonably use if we had to go out and perform any law enforcement functions out at the casino and for the tribe. So it's generally equipment that we use in shared units. In this case, our major crimes units, our regional intelligence group, and the bomb squad. So.
Thank you. Commissioner French, I see you unmuted.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. Mr. Knowles, do you monitor the services that we provide to the Spokane Tribe Casino, and does this cover those costs adequately, or are we subsidizing it, or what's the relationship between this award and our actual cost as we experience it out there?
So the tribe does not have a contract for services per se with Spokane County. And we really have no obligations that way outside of what we're normally obligated for anywhere else in Spokane County, any other entity. So part of the grant application is we do report to them all of the contacts that we have out at the address of the casino. Frankly, it's not that many in comparison to any other business in Spokane County. But we do have deputies who do voluntary contacts, who go in there just to check with their security and make sure everything's okay. And we do try to be good business partners with the tribe. Obviously, we have an interest in them, keeping criminal activity to a minimum. Casinos can tend to be places where people try to launder money, and they can sometimes be a place where organized crime can take hold. And the tribe, in this particular case, they want to be a very good partner. They don't want any of that stuff in there. They also realize that if they have a major incident there, that Spokane County Sheriff's Office would likely be the agency that would go out and respond with a SWAT team, or if there was a criminal incident that occurred that was not falling into the jurisdiction of the tribe's law enforcement or a federal law enforcement, which can happen. That likely the sheriff's office would be the agency that would have the expertise to step in. We've done that in certain instances at other tribal land facilities in the past, where Airway Heights, who is typically contracted to provide those police services, didn't necessarily have the capability to provide the expertise. A couple of years ago, they had a shooting on tribal land amongst non-tribal members, and therefore civilian law enforcement had state authority to do the criminal investigation, and Airway Heights needed our assistance because of our expertise in those areas. So we have this relationship with the Spokane tribe so we're familiar with their with their operations. We have good relationships with them, and they're a very, very good partner.
Thank you.
It was a very long answer to a short question. I apologize.
All right.
With that, I don't have anything else that will be taken separately until I get to item number 5 on today's agenda, which will be a public hearing. So I look to my fellow commissioners.
So Madam Chair, I would move to approve items 2, 3, and 4, and all of the sub items appearing thereunder in today's agenda.
I will second the motion.
And I have a motion and a second to approve items number 2, 3, 4, and all sub items as presented on today's agenda. Any other discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Aye, motion passes unanimously. That will take us to item number 5, which is a public hearing in the matter of rescinding the approval of the final plat of Southridge Forest 4th edition as recorded with Spokane County Auditors recording number 7905190173. And I believe we have Tammy Jones who's going to present on that.
I apologize. I thought I was unmuted. Good afternoon. This is Tammy Jones representing the Department of Building and Planning on the hearing item today, which consists of an application to rescind the approval and vacate a final plat of Southridge Forest 4th edition as originally recorded with the Spokane County Auditor. The subject property is located, as you can see in the red outline here, it is located south of 63rd Avenue, west of Regal Street, and north of the former site of the former South Hill landfill. And it's this forested area that is right here. To the east, you can see the existing Mullen Road Elementary School. The final plat of Southridge Forest 4th edition was approved by the commissioners and recorded with the auditor on June 19th of 1979. And it was intended for the development of 37 lots for single family residences to be served by a series of interior public roadways. The final plat, as you can see, was never constructed and the roadways were never developed. The site remains undeveloped and has most recently been used for an informal South Hill dog park up until just recently when the school district or Spokane School District purchased the property. The school district has submitted an application requesting to vacate the final plat for the purpose of being able to construct a new middle school on the site. RCW 5817-212 requires the county hold a public hearing in order to allow for public comments on the requested vacation of the final plat. The vacation of the final plat will not only result in the lots being vacated, but it will also vacate all public right-of-way dedications within that final plat. As the RCW directs, which is 5817-080 and 090, a public notice was provided for today's hearing. That includes the mailing of a notice of public hearing to all property owners within 400 feet of the boundaries of the subject site, and also the posting of the notice of public hearing in the legal notice section of the spokesman review, and both of those have been completed. RCW 5817-212 also directs the county to hold the public hearing and states that the board may either deny or approve the request for a vacation upon considering public comments after determining that the public use is interpreted to be served by the vacation of the subdivision. So do you have any questions on today's item?
I do not see any questions being raised at this point. Thank you,
Okay.
Tammy. I think it's fairly
you.
straightforward.
Okay, great.
So this is a public hearing on today's agenda. This again is item number 5A in the matter of rescinding the approval of the final plat of Southridge Forest, 4th edition, as recorded with the Spokane County Auditors, recording number 7905190173. With that, I will open the public hearing to see if anyone wants to testify. If you are on Zoom, if you please raise your hand, use the raise hand function or on your screen, or if you're on your phone, press *9. First call for anyone wishing to testify. Second call for anyone wishing to testify. Again, use the raise hand function or press *9 if you're on your phone. Third and final call for anyone wishing to testify. Seeing no one wishing to testify, I will close the public hearing and look to my fellow commissioners.
So just for clarification purposes, Ms. Jones, we are rescinding the original plat, right?
Correct.
Okay,
Vacating
Madam
lots
Chair, I
and
would
rights of
move-
way.
okay. Madam Chair, I would move that we accept the recommendation of staff in the matter of rescinding the approval of the final plat of Southridge Forest 4th edition as recorded with the Spokane County Auditors, recording number 7905190173.
I will second the motion.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes unanimously. Thank you very much, Tammy, for joining us today and giving that presentation. That will conclude our 2 o'clock consent agenda. We will have a stack of papers to sign here. And we will continue with our afternoon meeting, and we have Sheriff Knezovich here to talk about the supported release program and give us an update.
I gave staff some items, and I need the Word document first. I sent
Zoom out on the camera.
a white paper to the board and prosecutor's office, and also Judge Bauer and CEO Simmons in reference to the supported release program that was in the paper last week. And a lot of the research that I did in reference to this, because of the questions I received from the reporter, it kind of baffled me, because all the members of staff that I talked with out of Ms. Yates' former office made it clear that they did not feel that there was any risk that we're going to lose any funding immediately on this. So I took the time over the weekend to take a look at the program. And one of the things that I noted was that the program is a Macarthur Foundation pretrial release program, and is currently being used in several cities, New York being the most notable. And when you take a look at this program, it is a standard program for restorative justice. And restorative justice is very much related to some other critical criminology theories, which is basically based on Marxist concepts. And that's not my opinion. You see the site of work there under the site there. The reason I know this is I had to actually do research on this particular program through my master's program. When you take a look at it, restorative justice programs have to be research or have to be voluntary. That means that in order for this program to work, either the public defender or the subject's attorney or the subject have to request the judge to put them on this type of program. It has to be voluntary, and in order for it to move forward, the courts would have to take those recommendations. I also found articles out of New York, current date, as close as I could. One of the articles came out of the publication The City, and the information coming out of New York is not positive in reference to this type of program. It actually has a higher recidivism rate than people that receive bail with no program, which I found very odd, because you would think that people that had the programming would be recidivism, with their recidivism levels would be less, not according to the research coming out of New York. One of the other aspects that I noted was, I'm not sure how well this program is going to work for Spokane County. And, you know, the courts could have done this at any time in the last 2 years. They could have structured it. They could have went out for RFP. They could have brought this program in anytime they wish. But one of the things I noticed on the graph that you see is that other misdemeanor cases, you only had 12 individuals that fell into that. One of the stark things about these numbers are that the vast majority of charges that are booked into the Spokane County Jail are felony charges, and they tend to be very serious felony charges. The next category you have is your gross misdemeanors, and traditionally 55% of that number are domestic violence related. Then 50% of the remaining 50% is usually DUI and other gross misdemeanor type of crimes. The other misdemeanors are your lower level misdemeanor crimes, your crimes that, being drunk in public and causing problems can get you arrested for disturbing the peace and things like that. So they're basically quality of life type of arrests. And the only reason that they got arrested was they were such a problem on the street that officers or deputies deemed that they had to get them off the street. Traditionally, we do not arrest those type of individuals in Spokane County. We haven't arrested those type of individuals since I came to work here 26 years ago. We cite and release them. That is considered an arrest. And you're going to have a total of 12 that may qualify given the snapshot. My concern for the public on this is the fact that it's not working very well in New York. And when you look at, if we scroll down a little, right there, when we take a look at the release data, the release data shows that for the other misdemeanors, they're spending about 3 days, 3.6 days in jail. And the charts below that break it down even further. Most of them are only spending about 24 hours in jail. But 3 days is about the maximum limit that it would take somebody to go in front of a judge for a probable cause hearing. So we're basically releasing these folks as fast as we can, as it is now. So I'm really concerned about the implementation of this program is going to have to rely very heavily on a very good risk assessment tool. Because if the judges don't have a good risk assessment tool, how are they going to determine if somebody should be placed on this type of release? Because unlike bond, there's some skin in the game for the offender. This one, there's no skin in the game because the courts really have nothing over them because they can't mandate they go to training. They can't mandate they go to programming. They can't mandate that they apply with conditions of release because it's pre-trial. So these are things that we're going to need a very effective risk tool to make sure that we're putting the right people into these programs. But if you take a look at the hard data, we're basically releasing these folks as quickly as possible. And my concern is, I know that I have convicted felons that commit more felonies. We arrest them with guns in their possession, which is another felony, and they're being released on their own recognizance already. So there's some challenges in my view of making sure that the courts have the proper tools to make the proper decision of who they're releasing into our community. Scroll down a little. So those are the other charts I mentioned that back the top chart and break down exactly, you know, how long and what percentage of time that these people in these lower levels are staying in jail and being released. Scroll down just a little bit more. So 52% of those released from jail are being released on OR already. Surety or OR, surety bond, or cash bonds already. So 61% of those are being released within 1 to 3 days of arrest, 42% within 24 hours, and 19% within 1 to 3 days. Within the 3 to 10 days of arrest, a full 66% of the offenders are released from jail. And that's out of your low-level categories. Scroll. So it would be my goal, and I want people to make sure that everybody understands this program really resides in the new department that you formed under Director Sparber. Director Sparber is directly in charge of this program now, but we are willing to help, and we've formed a team around Director Sparber to help him get this up and running as quickly as possible. There's a chance for partnerships with the city of Spokane on RFPs to find a third-party vendor. That way we're actually mimicking the New York model. In order for us to go to pretrial services, that would be a fairly heavy lift, I think, for pretrial services and for the county. If we go with the third-party vendor, Judge Bauer mentioned there is a vendor out there that's already has some experience in this. And with the board's permission of authorizing us to move this process forward, I'm pretty sure that Director Sparber and the team that we have around him can bring you a program and the courts a program and have this implemented by end of March, April timeframe. We need to have this implemented very quickly so we have at least half of your data for 22. My recommendation is half of your data for 22, whatever money's remaining, either have Macarthur help fund 23. At the end of 23, we make a very clear data analysis and decide if this is a program that is worth keeping for this community. At that point, the big three, the city of Spokane, the city of Spokane Valley, and the county, really need to find out what their appetite is for funding this. And that would be my recommendation. So my recommendation is to the board is to give us a thumbs up to move this forward, to include the ability to go to RFP to find a third-party vendor.
Thank you, Sheriff. So when you did the population on the list that had the 12 as other misdemeanors for total, is that just on one day?
That's on one day. That's a 1 day snapshot.
Okay.
And quite frankly, Commissioner, that is pretty much an average.
Okay.
You don't really vary very often in that mix.
Okay. I just wanted to make sure it's more than 12 like in a
Yep.
year. But
Yeah, it's just a 1 day snapshot. So
okay.
on any given day, there's maybe 12 that might qualify for that.
Okay. Very good. Commissioner French.
Thank you for the presentation, Sheriff. Question for you. In the last couple weeks, we've seen an awful lot of media coverage of the crime rate in the city of New York. In fact, it reached such an alarming level that even the president went there to try and influence some of the outcomes that were underway in the city of New York and stuff. How does this program reflect or counter some of the other stuff that we're seeing out of New York right now? Is this program one of the things that will help alleviate some of the crime in New York City? And the only reason I mentioned New York City is because it's gotten a lot of media coverage, but then translating that to Spokane, I mean, we're obviously not New York, and we thank God for that every day, but it certainly has some influences, if you will. Can you speak to that?
I can. Since this program is going to be modeled after the New York model, that's why I went and tried to find the most current data I could from coming out of New York that was as close to unbiased as I can get. I've seen data in emails recently that some people have read my white paper apparently over the weekend, started looking and asking for data dumps from outside sources. And the bottom line is this, Commissioner, as close to unbiased sources that you can find would say that these programs are actually contributing to the rise in crime in New York. You mentioned President Biden going to New York. It's even more stark when Al Sharpton is saying that the mayor of New York needs to do something about the crime in New York. So that's why I'm giving you a full and clear briefing as I can in reference to this. And we mentioned that, we're not New York, and thank goodness, but Ron, if you could pull up, there's a video attached to that. And it would be the this one right here, and then the top one after. What I'm about ready to show is not a video from Baghdad, Mogadishu, New York, Chicago, or south of the border on a town run by cartels. The video I'm about ready to show you comes from Spokane within the last week or so. Up at the top of your screen, you're going to see a van come into view, and then off to your right hand of your screen, you're going to see a car come into that intersection also. So, Ron, if you can. I don't think we're running yet.
Hopefully we'll get there. A little technical.
1 second.
There we go. The blinking lights are the first car that I mentioned. It's the van. And if you could turn the there's no sound on this one. The next video I have you play, there'll be sound and it needed it turned up. All right, notice the van's moving, coming into the intersection, does not have any lights on as yet. Now watch off to your right, you'll see some headlights start to fade into the scene. You notice an individual just got out of that van. You see this car pulling into this intersection. Those flashes of lights are gunfire. That is gunfire. Now you get a closer view as we go into, we zoomed in on that to give you a better idea of what's going on. Individual gets out. Those flashes you see of dust, like those are rounds hitting that van as they're being shooting back. This is the individual. Look at the top of that vehicle. You have somebody hanging out the window on the passenger side, cranking rounds off at the van that is on the other side of the intersection. And Ron, if you could pull up the next video. The next video is taken from the perspective of one of our citizens. Now, mind you, this could have been any one of us at 5:40 in the evening on Sprague and Crest Line. This is 5:40. This is a high traffic time for this community. This could have been any one of us, could have been any one of our family members. And it could have been a lot worse than it was. Thank God there's nobody actually got hit in all of that. It was amazing that no one actually got hurt during that exchange. Yes.
I might have to try something else.
Oh.
Try something.
We may not get that perspective unless we can find a way to get to that. There we go. Now listen very carefully because you're going to hear the gunshots, and at the end you're going to hear a round hit right by this individual's car. What you're hearing is gun. End of that, right at the end of that, you hear a ping. That was a round hitting the sign next to that driver's car. So when we talk about not being New York, if we don't start looking at our criminal justice system and what we're doing, commissioners, I've spent 26 years protecting this community, 16 of it as sheriff. I'm really concerned at this point. We've had multiple of these types of shootings that you aren't even hearing about. People don't report sometimes what's going on. Out in the valley at the Black Pearl, the weekend that this happened, we had a similar shooting. We are getting more and more of these type of reports. And the sad part about it is we arrest these individuals and they are literally telling our deputies and our officers on the street, I'll be out in 3 days. The data shows out in 3 days, and these are serious heavy hitters. They have felony convictions. They've committed additional felonies. They're found with guns and they are getting OR'd. No bond in this community. So my concern, Al, is the same that you have. I'm willing to try programs, but if we're going to do this program, we better have a very stringent risk tool to make sure that we're releasing people that aren't going to be doing this on our streets. And, you know, quite frankly, the reform bills that we talk about out of last year weren't reform bills for law enforcement. They were get out of jail cards for the criminal. We can't chase people. If we pulled into that area just based on the radio traffic coming out, shots fired, We don't have PC to go after those folks. Hopefully that gets fixed in this session of the legislature. But as it stands right now, we wouldn't have been able to chase them unless we actually saw it with our own eyes. So be very careful what we're about ready to do to our community. And I'm more than happy to work on these type of programs, but I am very concerned about what is going on in our community. And quite frankly, the next slides, deck of slides that I have speaks to one of the main issues that has really prevented us moving forward in our community as far as trying to solve the issues facing the criminal justice system. And that is racial disparity. Alex, you have your hand back up, or can I continue?
No, go ahead and continue with your comments, and then
Al,
I wanted to piggyback off of something you said.
What's that?
You may want to repeat that, Al. We couldn't hear you in here.
I said, finish up with your comment, Sheriff, and then I want to piggyback on something you said.
All right. These are claims that have been made by the Spokane community against racism concerning our criminal justice system, and quite frankly, even more directly leveled at the prosecutor's office. This comes from the JFA data that you saw earlier. And the claim is that Native Americans are 6.5 times more likely to be incarcerated than whites. African Americans 13 times more. They give the side of the GFA presentation of 2019. Then they state that Black inmates spent 2.3 times longer in jail than white inmates, according to whatever data coming from December 21st or December of 2021. One of the things I'd like Director Sparber to do with his analysts at his disposal is to take a deeper dive into the numbers I'm about ready to present. Go ahead. So this was a breakdown of the population of that snapshot according to the GFA data. 70% of the people in jail were white, 12% African American, 7% Native American. Go forward. This is a 5-year snapshot of what the population looks like over that course of time. Again, it basically mirrors, it's fairly static over those 5 years. Next. In order for the claim for SCAR to be accurate, you'd have to take the 645 white inmates times 13, and that would give you the population of the African-American population in jail, not the 124 that the JFA study shows. So where do you get this 13 times more? Go ahead. You have to use proportionality math. Now, this is the same study. As you can see, based on per 100,000 residents, African Americans, it would reflect that there would be 2,000 African Americans in our jail. I caution everybody, this is very bad science. Matter of fact, it's not even science. As is in sociology and criminal justice, we'd never use this type of data, ever, because it means nothing. There's no why behind it. There's no null hypothesis behind it. There's no hypothesis behind it. It's just data that is really misleading data. And I'll show you why I say that definitively at the end of this slide presentation. Next. So again, this is how the pie chart breaks out. And SCAR would have you believe that, you know, because of our prosecutor, this resides the way it is. Well, let's see what it was in 2009 and 2010. This is David Bennett, 2010 crime report, jail population report. And as you see, it's 12% African American, in 9, 11% in 10. It's been fairly consistent for almost 17 years that I've been associated with this data. So no, it is not the prosecutor's office. No, it is not law enforcement. No, it is not the courts. It is something else that's driving these numbers. And that something else is the community and the problems within the community, not the response from the criminal justice system. Next. This is the data from the GFA study as far as length of stay broken down by demographic. As you notice, it's 1.7 times more for African Americans than whites in this one. I don't know why they didn't cite their work on the 2.3. That's another area that I'd really like Director Sparber to dive into these numbers. The more importantly is the next part of this is this. What were the charges that people were being held on? And you can break that down by demographic. What we have seen in the past are our African-American community tends to be held on higher level crimes. If you're held on a higher level crime, you're going to stay in jail longer than people that are held on lower level crimes. So this is another data point that I really like Director Sparber's office to dive deeply into. And out of that 126 African-Americans that were seen in that snapshot, we can do that same snapshot today and tell me what level of crime they're being held for versus the other populations within the area. If you want to find out the why, the true nature of disparity, you have to go down to that granular level. You can't go with proportionality math because it means nothing. It doesn't tell you the why behind it. And again, sociologists and criminal justice researchers, we won't use that data because it means zero. If I actually did a paper and I used that type of data in my research for my projects, I would have failed because it means nothing. Next. And here's why it means nothing. This is data that came out of a study conducted by the ACLU in 2015. The study was titled War Comes Home, Militarization of Law Enforcement. And yes, Spokane County Sheriff's Office is there. But in this study, it says that my SWAT team, mind you, the SWAT team alone impacted 588 African Americans in our community. When I first asked the ACLU, is that 1 or 2 years? 2011 to 2012 or 2011 through 2012? I got 2 answers. All right. The first was 1 year. And then when they realized, oh, no, it's 2 years, I went, okay, fine, fair enough, 2 years. Let's go to what the real data was for those years. There were a total of 3 African Americans affected by the SWAT team during that year. 3. None of them for drug-related issues, as the ACLU claimed that SWAT teams are only used for drug raids. These individuals were arrested for homicides. Next. In 2012, there were 2, a male and a female. 2. Next. Those 2 years combined, you had 40 call-outs, 64 subjects, 58 of them white, 5 African American, and none of them, the African Americans that were affected, were affected because of a drug search warrant. They were all serious homicide type crimes. This is why I say proportionality math and the use thereof means nothing. It's misleading. When people around the United States read about Spokane County SWAT team, it looked like we target African Americans in our community, when in fact, there were only 5 impacted in those 2 years. It means nothing, and we need to stop this false narrative in its tracks if we are going to move this criminal justice process and reform forward. We need to find out what is the true drivers of these numbers. Otherwise, we will never move forward because we will always be seen as a disparity based on proportionality math. It's time to find out what is truly driving it. And that video that you just saw is a large portion of it in reference to the disparity aspects. Al?
Thank you, Sheriff. So the other thing I wanted to point out out of New York City and is that in some of the reporting that happened last week, and that the prosecuting attorney for the city of New York was being criticized by the governor and the attorney general's office for the state for failing to prosecute criminals, for failing to prosecute crimes, for doing basically catch and release with no bail. And they were attributing some of the actions for the prosecuting attorney as contributing to the crime rate that they're experiencing there in the city of New York. So my point is that, and I think all of us around the table here understand and appreciate this, is that protecting a community is a team sport. You've got the sheriff and his deputies on the front line, but you've got the prosecuting attorney, the judges, public defenders, and then the jail to try and all have that perfect balance. We're all striving for that perfect balance, and it is elusive at times. Just wanted to point out that we've got a lot of players that are on the front line to try and keep this community safe. And I just wanted to say thank you to you, Ozzy, and all of your deputies and everybody in your office for standing on the front line there and working to keep us safe.
Thank you. And you can add the LA prosecutor to the same criticism list because LA's crime is going through the roof. He will not prosecute anything. And, accountability is part of the effort to get people out of the cycle of incarceration. We've lost sight of that. And again, for 26 years, I've worked for this community, protect this community, 16 as sheriff. This is my last year as sheriff. And commissioners, I don't want to leave my community in this type of situation when we have active gun battles on the streets at rush hour in our community. You're starting to see a change in California right now. And sadly, it is happening because of something that I said would happen sooner or later. You're starting to see some very high profile people have their houses broken into and, home invasion type robberies, and they were killed. They were high profile people. And suddenly it became an issue. It wasn't an issue when it was just mom and pop and our kids getting killed. It became an issue when high profile people got killed. I hope it doesn't come to that in our community, that it's going to take somebody high profile before our legislators and others in our community that prevent us from doing what's right in this community wake up. It shouldn't be just because somebody of higher status got killed that we should make a change. And my goal for the community is to make sure that we leave it in a better place than it is right now. So thank you for listening. I would like to have your thumbs up on taking this project and moving it forward, creating the best project we can, and to see if it will work here. But based on the data that we're seeing, proofs of that pudding.
Commissioner French.
Yeah, one last comment. When you look at the city of Chicago, which has got an incredible crime rate, what they've discovered is that the majority of crimes that are committed against communities of color are by fellow members of the same color. And that now those residents turned victims are looking to the police to save them, not from interracial, but all becoming victims of their same race and stuff. So, you know, it's not as easy as some people would like to portray it. But I agree with you, Sheriff. There is a growing outcry, particularly in our heavily urbanized areas, but now actually going to middle America, where people said, you know, what about me? Who's protecting me from becoming that next victim? And looking for law enforcement to be able to keep them safe. So again, thank you for the work that you're doing.
Commissioner Kearns?
So my question, Sheriff, is, I mean, what will set our program of supervised release away from the New York model that saw, you know, the 41.3% rearrested and 23% arrested on felony? Is it the risk assessment tool? Is that what you believe is going to kind of set our program apart from the New York program?
Commissioner, that really resides straight in the house of our courts. I can give the courts the best risk assessment tool there is. It really comes down to each and every one of the judges making the proper call on these releases. And when I spoke with Judge Bauer about this, I made it very clear to Judge Bauer, please make sure you release the right people into these programs. Failure to do so will do nothing but harm us and harm our community. So to answer your question very bluntly, this resides solely on the courts.
Okay, thank you.
So, and Sheriff, so your recommendation is for us to do this for 6 months. Allow you the opportunity to move forward with it for 6 months, see what the data shows, to then determine if we do it for another year.
It would be 6 months, see what our funding levels look like. If Macarthur will extend it for another year, in order to get a good snapshot, you have to have more than 6 months.
Okay.
I would be, by the end of 2023, have the data delivered to the board, to the city councils, and you make a determination at that point, is this worth continuing?
Okay, thank you. And I guess one other question is, as we're seeing across the nation, I mean, it was on the news this morning that violent crimes are on a rise. And you've seen the same thing here in Spokane as well, is that correct?
The Spokane Valley last year broke its homicide record by 3 times its normal, 3 times. That's unheard of. And you're only seeing the tip of the iceberg. You know, if you talk to SPD, they will tell you that they were very, very fortunate last year that the multitude of shootings that they had didn't end up with more homicides that they actually faced. Again, I gave you a week ago in the city, and I told you about the shooting we had in the valley. All within the last week, all multiple rounds fired, and that violence is increasing across the nation. And we have to be able to start looking at getting that back under control. And the only way that that happens is, you know, everybody wants to talk about gun violence. Okay, you know, we have a gun violence problem. It's not because there are guns out there, folks. It's because you have criminals having those guns. When they're arrested with those guns, they're getting released. They're getting dumped right back into society to do it again. They're stealing guns, they are selling guns, they're committing crimes with those guns. If you want to fight gun violence, it's not take guns away from law-abiding citizens or limit their magazine capacities. It's hold the criminal accountable for committing a crime with a gun. Commit a crime with a gun, automatic 5-year additional sentence. Kill somebody with a gun, if I had my way, you'd never get out of jail. But I realize that I live in the state of Washington, so if you kill somebody with a gun, you have an additional 20 years on your sentence. Simply committing a crime with a gun is 5 years. If you want to end gun violence, you have to make it painful to commit gun violence.
So I'll look to my fellow commissioners for a head nod or a thumbs up for the sheriff to move forward with this program, or if you think you don't want. Okay, I see Commissioner French with the head nod, Josh, Commissioner Kearns with the head nod. I'm giving you the head nod that I think it's worth trying to see what the data is, see what's happening, and see if we can make improvements here.
All right, and to make it clear, Director Sparber, this is his. We will help him in any way we can, but the Macarthur grant rests with his division. So we'll help him. We will get everything done. I've adopted this as one of my last and final projects, and I would like to have this to you by April at the latest, so we can actually get that good data.
Thank you. Well, and this will not be the only time we get to say this, but thank you for your years of service. And I know you've just announced that you won't be seeking re-election. So we do want to thank you for all that you've done for our community to keep our community safe.
Thank you. It's been my honor to do so. Thank you.
Thank you. So Scott, I think under miscellaneous, I think you were going to talk about, as the sheriff has talked about, spoken about Director Sparber. I think you've got a couple of people that have had being put in your executive management team. So I'm going to let you speak to that.
Thanks, Commissioner CUNY. I did want to share with the commissioners and those who are listening in. We did make 2 selections to add to our executive team. Kat Nichols has been selected for our Senior Director of Community Affairs, and Mike Sparber has been selected as our Senior Director of Law and Justice. This was made possible, I guess made possible maybe is not the right words, but it was something that we budgetarily looked at through the process. And as you all know, that we had both our CEO position that was vacated and our Director of Environmental Services, which allowed us to kind of really look at the organization, reposition it for what I felt was better alignment, better opportunities for communication. When I joined the county, I quickly found out that on paper, I had greater than 30 departments reporting up to the CEO, which is challenging to manage. And you've all been very supportive of allowing me the opportunity to reevaluate and relook at things. So we were very purposeful around doing some internal recruiting that was evaluating what I felt was the strengths and caliber of our existing team and employees, first to give them an opportunity. And I wasn't surprised that 2 very qualified candidates came to the top with Kat and Mike. A little bit about Kat's background. Kat's been our regional director for our veteran services for Spokane County. She's been serving that role for since 2017. She's also been dual having with a role at the state level as well. So we've been utilizing her to build a great team here in Spokane County. Kat's got a background in a variety of veteran services, a lot of local, state, federal engagement for these efforts. She comes to us with a bachelor's from Eastern Washington University, and you notice a trend here when I get to Mike as well. She's retired from the U.S. Army. She has a great level of experience with federal grant and federal assistance dollars. So we're very excited to have Kat joining our team. She'll be effective in the role on March 1 as she winds down her responsibilities with the state. In that role, she's actually going to be overseeing a number of our community-facing departments. Those will include scraps, vet services, continuing on with that, our community services, housing and community development, as well as our WSU co-op extension. So I wanted to recognize her. And the second one with Mike Sparber. Mike is also a known individual within the county. He's been employed with the county since 1988. It was his first job he pursued in detention services, and he's had a number of positions within detention services. He's been involved with a number of criminal justice efforts, including the team that developed the blueprint for reform. He served with the Spokane County Regional Law and Justice Council. He also is a graduate from Eastern Washington University. That's the theme there. So he's going to be continue to oversee our detention services functions along with pretrial services, our law and justice administration, and our medical examiner's office. And he'll have some budgetary oversight for our council of defense and our public defender's office. So very excited for both of those new roles. Mike's going to be starting in the role actually tomorrow. So he's looking for his replacement as the detention services director, and he'll probably be announcing some interim plans in the near future right now. But wanted to again thank the commissioners individually for your support in helping us get to this. I think it'll allow us to be a little bit of a flatter organization, have better direct connection with our department heads, our employees, helping with collaboration. Both of those positions are going to be reaching across different departments, helping to guide strategic initiatives, community engagement, operational improvements, efficiencies, facilities, all the above. So with that, thanks again.
Thank you. No, I think it's exciting, and I think deserved for you to, give you a chance to come in as our new CEO and figure out what you want that management structure. And so I'm excited to see, and just so everyone knows, both these candidates, we only did internal recruiting at this point in time and found two great candidates. So that's why it did not go out to an external recruitment process. Is that correct?
That is correct. Yes.
Thank you. And I think we're very excited. The commissioners know both those individuals well, and they're both have shown that leadership ability in our leader retreats. Have been great department heads for their and directors for their divisions. So I'm very excited to see what they're going to bring and help support you as well.
Thank you.
So with that, is there any other miscellaneous items to bring forward today? Seeing none from Scott. Okay, then we will conclude our meeting. It is 3:15. And we'll conclude our meeting for today, and we will rejoin again next week. Monday is a holiday, so we will see everybody on Tuesday. Thank you.